Okay, so this video is a continuation of a series of videos on the Heroku architecture credential by example. All the videos are available through a Medium article of this title, and you can find them there. In part 5, we're continuing on to part 6 now, and we talked about networking and we talked about various things, in particular custom DNS. Okay, this time we're going to change gears and move to more of a workflow, where we talk about basically a very basic workflow using a feature called pipelines. So we're going to talk about pipelines. We're going to do a basic workflow kind of example, and then we'll do a GitHub integration at the end of this. Okay, so let me close this down. So the first thing, let's go see the current status of Heroku. We have one app called Hello Cert Larkin Tucker. What we really want to do here is we really want to be able to create in the end 2 apps. One basically is going to be called our staging app, which is where we'll do, we'll promote code into it, make sure everything's good, and then once we're happy with it, we can promote it to production. So that'll be a production app. So just for naming conventions, I'm going to go ahead and rename this app here to maybe just Heroku Cert Larkin Tucker dash PRD, because this is essentially a production app right now. So I'm going to go into here, and so the point here is you can actually edit apps. I'm going to call this PRD. Now you notice that one thing it says is that if you rename your apps, you have to go in to your GitHub repositories and change your remotes. So we'll do that. So save. Okay, so now I have one app called prod. So let's fix this remote business. So what we can do is we are going to go to documents. Okay, apparently documents, Heroku cert. Okay, so what we're actually going to do here first, though, instead of adding a new remote right now, because conceptually, when I'm pushing code, I don't want to push it right to production. I want to push it to my staging app. So I'm going to do a git remote remove Heroku. Okay, and that basically just wiped out. So I'm going to say git remote -v, and I can see I've gotten rid of anything to do with Heroku here. So this will not push the Heroku anymore, and we'll leave it alone for the minute. I'm going to put that aside. Okay, so now one thing I also going to need to do, I'm finding out that by switching the name of this app, I did this earlier, I think it broke my custom DNS. I mean, it didn't seem like it should have, but it's not working right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this after the video, but if I type in Heroku custom domain, there is instructions on, we went through the exercise of adding in the last video. There's also removing domain, where you can remove a domain. So what I'm going to do, not on this video, but afterwards, I'm going to remove the domain off my app, right? And then I'm going to basically remove it from my GoDaddy account. So I'm basically back to where I was with no custom domains. And then I'm going to follow instructions again on the video, the previous video, to reassign a new custom domain and have it pointing at the production app. Again, I think while it didn't seem like it didn't warn me about it, I think changing the name of this app broke my custom domain. Okay, so that's something you can do on your own if you wanted to do the same thing. Okay, so let me get back to what I was doing. So the feature we're going to use is called a pipeline. So pipeline is basically what it is it's think of it as a series of apps that you've kind of grouped together under an umbrella called a pipeline that all share the same, say, code base, right? They're just different stages of it. There's maybe a staging, a production, you can have, different stages. So what you do to sort of enable this feature of grouping your apps, you create a pipeline. In this case, I'm going to call it Heroku cert dash Larkin Tucker. Okay, and I'm just going to create a pipeline. Okay, so I've got a pipeline, and I named it such a fashion that just a convention. I'm going to have all the apps underneath there look like the same thing, just with an extra dash on the end. So I'm going to add an app. I'm going to type in Heroku. There's my prod version. Okay, so now I have two. Well, I only have one app right now, but I'm going to add another app here, and I'm going to create a new app because I don't have one yet, called Heroku Cert Larkin Tucker dash staging as STG. Okay, create app. Okay, so now I've got an app called staging, and I've got an app called production. But you notice that this has no code. This one has the code. It's still running. This one has no code on it right now, actually. You know, so there's no git hash on it. So one thing I need to do is I need to kind of get this back to a normal state. So the first thing I do here is I'm going to add the remote here back to that, right? So the way you can do this is you can do Heroku get remote, right? And then you give an app name -a for app, and I paste the app name here. This basically now repoints this repository back to the new app, and then I can do git push. By the way, one of the things I did between the last video and this video is I basically merged the networking branch back into master, because I'm going to work with master now because it makes more sense in terms of this workflow to use master branch instead of all these one-off branches. So we're now working off a master here. So I'm going to do git push Heroku master. So before I had to do those extra colons. So now I don't have to. If I got this right, I'm pushing it. And if I watch here, I can see it building. And I think you'll start to see some activity on the screen here. Where is it? If I got it right, I should say, right now I can see it's building now, my staging app. And let's wait for it to build. This should only take about another minute. Okay, so it's deployed. Now, one thing, just so you know, right, I deployed basically a new slug, and one thing you notice here is that these slug IDs, these commit hash IDs, are identical. So there's no concept of promoting from a lower staging to upper stage at this point because there's no differences. Now, that being said, remember, a release consists more of than just the slug. This one, I don't have paper trail, for example, installed, because it doesn't, resources are something you have to manage manually. So I need to go in here under resources. I'm going to go add paper trail back here. And provision paper trail. And environment variables are also not, they don't move around between apps on you. You have to manage them yourself. Now, there's ways of copying. You can Google this. You can copy them between app to app if you have a lot of them. But in this case, I only have one extra one I care about, which is development true. This is what was doing the extra logging, right? So now these apps are essentially identical now. The production app and the code's identical, and then have the same resources and they have the same environment variables. Now, in theory, in production, I don't necessarily need the extra level of logging. So just maybe for completeness, I'm going to go into settings and I'm going to remove, that's curious. I must have, okay, I was confused there. I had gone in a few minutes ago and I was doing a demo of this whole thing, and I already had removed the development. I was just getting ready to hit the X button here to remove the development config variable. So this got wiped out, not because I did anything else, it was because I was doing something earlier. But again, environment variables kind of live in their own like apps have their own environment variables. And in this case, I wanted to delete the development one because this is the production code, right? So I don't need the extra logging. Okay, so if everything's working right, let's validate this. I have two apps. Basically, the only difference between these two right now is one's got extra logging than the other one. So if I was to go to this one, and if I open an app, it'll be called staging. And if I look at the logs, Roku logs, this one I should see the extra logging, right? Here it is right there. And if I go to, for different, if I go to the other app, it's going to give me the same result, right? But in this case, I'll look at, I think I can do this. Let me try it. Heroku log, but I'm going to give it an app name. Roku cert Larkin Tucker did I misspeaks? Oh, misspelled prod. Right, now, so this is the, so this is how, by the way, in general, this -a is a common way with Heroku to specify different app than the one that your repo is tied to. So in this case, I want to look at logs of the production code. And you can see the output here. I don't have it as extra logging because this one has the development flag is not set. Okay, so everything's working the way I expect it to. So what we can do now is we're going to do an example workflow where let me go back to this visual here, the pipeline. What we're going to do is we're going to make a change to the repository, push it to staging, right? Validate it, make sure we're happy with it, and then we're going to promote it to production. So this is an example of sort of a typical, sort of very basic workflow where we kind of manually push things around. So we'll get to more advanced workflows later, right? So the first step is in here, I need to change something. So I'm going to go in here and edit and add hello world 2. So let me go to server and let's call this hello world. Oops. 2, laggy. Okay, so I got hello world 2, right? And so now, okay, so there, and if I double check my remotes, right, I'm tied to staging, right? So if I do git add all, git commit 2, and then I push this up to Roku, git push Roku master. Okay, so what this is going to do, if you look at the screen here, you'll start to see I'm pushing a new version of the app to my staging environment. And you can see it's building here. So this will take another minute. Okay, so now I got a new version. So you can see this has got a different slug now, right? You see, notice this is 9C, this is 2A. So then if I click on this one and I look at it, I see, hey, I got Hello World 2. It's what I want. Okay, so now let's say you're happy now with the situation. You want to promote this code up to the production app. Well, to promote the slug, again, all it's going to do is take the slug up. So it's not going to change environment variables. It's not going to change your resources. But if I push this button here, it's going to promote, in this case, staging to production. Now, just one quick sidebar here. You got to be careful if your build process, right, uses environment variables and compiles into the build slug, right, for something. like it's actually in the slug, is something different because of the environment variables, then this promotion will not behave the way you expect, because the new environment variables wouldn't be relevant, right? Because there's no build going on here. When you promote a slug, it's just basically copying the slug files into the new environment and generating a new release. It does not do a new build. So this promotion button like this only works when your builds really don't depend on the environment variables, meaning the actual build files. Now, when it's running, it obviously depends on the environment variables. That's fine. It's just while it's building, it shouldn't depend on it. So if you're doing something, well, anyway, something to consider. In this case, the development flag is only used at runtime. It's not used during the build process. So I can promote staging to production. I hit prod. And so now I have a new release here. And you see the IDs now are the same. And if I go here and I open the app, I'll see Hello World 2 now. So now I've went through a very basic workflow where I made a change, pushed it to staging, validated it, and then looked at production. So that was the next major topic we were going to cover. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to actually look at this connect to GitHub button. Now I believe I already connected my account here, somewhere here. I'm not sure where it's at, but somewhere in here I've already connected myself to get my GitHub account because it already knows who I am. So I think if you were to do this and you had not done that already, it may ask you to log in to GitHub first. So mine probably doesn't because I've already logged into GitHub with this account. So I'm going to push this button and walk through what happens here. So again, this is going to connect the pipeline itself to a particular repository. So in this case, I'm going to search for Heroku cert, I think is what I called it. Right, so I actually had to create a temporary one before, so okay, I'm going to connect it to, okay, the pipeline's now going to be connected to Heroku cert. Okay, and then, so it tells me this, and then it talks about this review apps. We're going to cover that in a new section, right? Releases, let's see. Right, so it talks about this automatic deploy. So what, and then we're going to talk about Heroku CI and some of these other features, but I'm going to see if I can actually activate automatic, let's see, where is it at here? I don't even see it. Connected this. Okay, well, I think I'm good. I'm going to pause the video for a second because I'm looking for a button that, of course, now I can't find. So let me pause the video for a second. I'm going to come back here and then I'm going to find it and then I'll show you where it's at. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I actually just got myself confused. So the important thing here is I was looking at this one line. It says here, it says, automatic deploys are available to apps in this pipeline. So I was looking for a way of doing that, and I realized that I need to be actually on the app themselves. So right now I'm just on the pipeline. So if I go back to here, if I go to the pipeline, and here I want to basically have, instead of having me manually push this to Heroku from my master branch to this every time, what I'm going to do is go to settings for my staging app, only my staging app, and I'm going to scroll down, and there's a setting here about, actually there's a deploy button. Okay, it's not settings, it's deploy. So it's connected to this pipeline, right? And it knows it's connected to GitHub, but interesting enough, there's an extra setting here now, right? It says enable automatic deploys from GitHub. Choose a branch. So basically, anytime something gets pushed to the master branch, right? If I check this button, which I'm going to do, it says basically this will automatically deploy on master branch. Merges basically. So let's test this out. So now, of course, my other app, though, in this case, production is not tied to it. This is an app level setting. So if I go deploy here, this is not connected. This is not enabled deployed on anything. So I'm not connecting the flows going to be, I'm going to automatically push to here, to staging, and once I'm happy, I push the button to promote. Right? So let's validate this. So I'm going to go back into here, and I'm going to say, I'm going to make it 3. So I'm going to make a code change here, and I'm going to call hello world 3 now. Right? Save this, git status, okay, and I'm going to go to git add edit, git commit -m3. Okay, so instead of pushing it to Heroku, right, because before I would probably have to push it to my GitHub to keep a copy of everything, and then from there I have to then, then I also have to push it to Heroku. So I actually do 2 pushes if I really want to do this the right way before. But now I just need to do git push origin master. Okay, so now I'm committing my my code directly to master, and if I go to GitHub, let's see if I can find it. So I have branches. So if I look at my master branch, right? Well, nothing's too terribly exciting here. I don't see a lot of activity, but behind the scenes, aha! I notice that without me doing anything, there's a build going on right now. Okay, I can't really see much activity on it, but there's a build going on, and I don't think I'm going to be able to see. We're going to come back later. We'll be able to see when we do PRs later on. We'll see some indicators from Heroku, from GitHub, what's going on. I think this is going to be pretty invisible from that standpoint. So I'm just going to watch this. It just got deployed, right? And if I go into it, let's see what it says. It says basically my credentials deployed this one right here, right? And if I open the app, I hope to see stage 3, right? So here, by just now pushing to GitHub, there's an automatic hook, basically, where that was triggering then a new Heroku build based off of that commit, that push into master. Okay, so that's really all we're going to go through, and I'm going to just quickly summarize what we did. So essentially what we did was instead of just having a singular app, we created a second app. We renamed one app the production app, created a second app called staging, and we grouped both of them under a singular pipeline. We connected that pipeline to a GitHub repository, right, which then enabled me to turn around under my staging app and then have it automatically deploy off of pushes into the master branch, automatically comes into staging. So my workflow now just becomes, make my changes, push the master branch on my repository, and then build. And then once I'm happy, I push this button, and I can promote to staging still the way I used to. I promote to production as I was doing earlier. So now you'll see my production app has got 3 on it. There's my 3. Okay, so that's it for this video. We're going to go through a little bit more advanced topics related to workflows in the next video.